Read Junk.
Read Junk. Read Junk
Podcast.
ReadJunk Podcast with your host, my dad.
Hey, it's another episode of the ReadJunk Podcast. Remember me? It's been about a month and a half since the last episode. Sorry about that. Life got in the way, went on vacation, been planning the next one in the fall, going to Disney World. So can't wait for that one. Haven't been there in about 15 years. It's going to be the first time I'm going with my son, so that should be quite interesting and fun. What else is going on? I got two of my photos hanging up in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for the 25th anniversary of the Warped Tour exhibit that they're doing. The first photo is a picture of Jay from Bad Religion wearing his pajamas, and he's got his pajamas next to my photo, so that's kind of cool. And then another one is of Aaron of Really Big Fish with his blue guitar, and his blue guitar's hanging up, and then got my photo, not from the Warped Tour, but from like 2012. But I guess they needed another photo for that, so I got two photos hanging up, so it's pretty cool. But I don't think I'm going to be able to get there because it kind of ends in November, so I don't know if there could be a way to get over there to Cleveland to see it. But I saw some of the photos of it. It looks really excellent. So if you're in the Cleveland area, check out the Warped Tour exhibit at Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And if you do happen to go see it, let me know how it was. And then on July 19th, Radix Fest is happening at Gramercy Theater, and it's going to be such an awesome time. You got Pilfers, Mephistopheles, Spring Hill Jack, Hub City Stompers, Root Boy George, Sergeant Skag. Plus, there'll be some special guests as well. The guy from Sunseed, you know that song, Jesus is a Friend of Mine. That guy, he's going to be there. He's going to be playing with Root Boy George for a song, obviously that song. And then Robert from New York Citizens will be popping in with Hub City Stompers to play a song as well. So I'm sure there'll be some other, special guests popping in and out of each band. Plus, there's going to be most of the original Pilfers will be playing, which is pretty rare these days. I think the last time they were all together was in 2017. But unfortunately, James, the drummer, won't be able to play with the band because I think he lives on the West Coast. So get your tickets in advance now, or you can get them at the door, but I wouldn't risk getting them at the door if I were you. So come celebrate my 41st birthday at Gramercy Theater. Should be fun. Now, for this episode, I wanted to get back into things since it's been a little bit, haven't been doing anything lately. So I asked my friend Joe, who writes for the site, you might know him as Creature of War, and then we just kind of wanted to do a Warped Tour episode. I did one last year, so I kind of stumbled on some things that I talked about last year when I did that one episode, but I removed the episode since I had music on it. So we talked about the good, the bad, of the long-running tour that ended last year, and now they got some special events happening in New Jersey and California coming up. I might be going to, I'm probably going to go to at least one day. I don't think I'm going to go both days just because the hotels are so expensive. So in this episode, we talk about Warped Tour, obviously, things that we'll miss, things we won't miss, which will probably be a lot of things in that we don't miss. Band performances that stood out to us, and just like lots of other things that just are related to Warped Tour. And then towards the end, we get a little just talk about random things and New York Comic Con and things like that, because Joe and I always go to New York Comic Con, but I don't think I'm going this year, which sucks because that's where I'm going to Disney. So be sure to follow ReadJunk on social media and subscribe to the podcast at Apple Podcasts. I think it's called Apple Podcasts now. It used to be iTunes, but they're getting rid of that. Spotify, and wherever else you can get podcasts. I'll be back very soon with another episode, so stay tuned for that. And in the meantime, here's Joe and I talking about the Warped Tour. All right, so I'm with fellow ReadJunk junker. I don't know. You're my colleague, buddy. Joe from ReadJunk, and you know him as Creature of War on the site. And today we're going to be kind of just reminiscing about Warped Tour. I did it last year when it was kind of ending, but then I removed the episode because I had music in it and stuff. So I'll probably rehash some of the things that I talk about, but it's better to talk with someone about it instead of just me talking about it.
Yeah.
So I mean, they're celebrating the 25 years of the Warped Tour, and I guess they finished it last year, and now they brought it back and doing some big events, 2-day events. They already did one in Cleveland at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which I actually had two of my photos hanging up there, which is kind of cool. sadly, I don't think I'll be able to get there to go see it, which sucks. But it was either Disney or go to Cleveland. I'm like, I think I'd rather go to Disney.
Avoid Cleveland. I know from experience.
Well, I just went there for the day just to go see the exhibit and stuff, because it's only there till I think like November. But what I wanted to do was I wanted to fly into Chicago and then do that for a couple of days with my family, and then drive the 5 hours, whatever it is, from Chicago to Cleveland. But I'm like, the 5 hours would probably be brutal, like in a rental car to go to Cleveland. So I was like, we'll just do Disney instead. And I can't go by myself. I'm not allowed. So
Well, if you make it down to Pittsburgh, it's only about 3-hour drive. We could drive there.
And how far away is it from me to, was it like 5 hours or something?
Yeah, I think so. So you get a train or something.
Yeah, I mean, I could drive, but yeah.
Fly into Pittsburgh and we'll go from there.
See, I actually probably wouldn't mind. I mean, Pennsylvania is such a boring-ass drive, but...
Yeah, a lot of up and down mountains and hills, so...
Yeah, it's boring enough just when I had to go to Scranton outside of Northeast PA, but... So let's talk about Warped Tour. When we can talk about the Warped Tour 25th anniversary stuff later, I guess. But so I mean, what was your first Warped Tour? Was it in like 96, 97 time, or?
No, I didn't end up going until 2000.
Oh, okay.
That was my first year because I was moving out to Pittsburgh to go to college, and it was probably within the same week that we just moved out there. I had maybe 2 weeks before I was starting college. And I moved in with a good friend that I grew up with, and that was one of the things. It was, all right, now we can finally get a chance to go to a big concert together. So we got tickets early and went to that one. Like, I think 2 days later went to Ozfest, like out in Pittsburgh. So we were enjoying the close vicinity to the shows, but
yeah, they had Lollapalooza back then too, so it was kind of like before Warped Tour started, that was like the main one, and then Warped Tour happened.
Yeah, Lollapalooza became more like alternative radio rock stuff. Yeah. So Warped Tour had a lot of the underground, the punk and the ska was what it started off with.
Because I think then at Lollapalooza they had like Bosstones and like Fishbone, I think, but
yeah, a couple of the random shows.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of who else. I think I'd want to say that there was maybe Bad Religion or Pennywise or at least one punk band on it too that was getting big. Maybe the Offspring back then.
Offspring, yeah.
But if I recall, and for me, it's hard to remember without looking at who actually played. But I know that in 2000, I'm pretty sure that was the one that Anti-Flag headlined, and Save Ferris was there.
Well, headlining.
The Bosstones were there.
Yeah.
I think Long Beach Dub All-Stars were there. And then just you get on the list of like who's who of that era of punk and ska, like Suicide Machines, Dropkick Murphys, MXPX, No Effects, Less Than Jake. Like it was just MXPX was the only time I ever got to see them. They never came to Pittsburgh that I could find them, so they were pretty enjoyable.
Yeah, that was the only time I would go see them too, is go seeing them when they were on Warped Tour. So it's like there was actually a lot of bands that I only saw on Warped Tour, which was one of the reasons why I went. But then it just as the years went, it just kind of went like the music. It was like very far in between of the bands being good that I liked anyway.
We kind of outgrew that type of what it became because it was now younger generation. It was a lot of like when emo started taking over and a little bit of like the indie rock was picking up too, and that's what it's been for a while, and that's kind of how it's, I guess, changed over the years.
Yeah.
But 2 years ago,
the last decade, more.
I went to the one last year as well, which definitely was not as interesting. But 2 years ago, it felt like going to one of those, early 2000 shows with all the bands that were there.
Oh, was it? Oh, I mean, yeah, it's like I think it was like the last one I went to was the one in 2009. That was the 15th anniversary, and then I was like, it was just too many like complaints about it from me, and I'm like, it just didn't justify me going anymore. And I kind of, in a way, I kind of grew out of it. I was just kind of sick with dealing with a lot of just the old day thing of like going to see maybe 3 bands that I liked, and it just didn't justify going. So it was 2000, and where was it, in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, it was Pittsburgh. It was called the Icy Light Amphitheater, and it was just kind of a small, I don't know, it's one of those things that it wasn't quite like arena size. It was just like parking lot size, and within 2 years, the Warped Tour outgrew that area, so it moved out to a place at the time. It was called the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette Pavilion.
Okay.
And it was out in a place called Burgettstown, which was actually about 25 minutes from downtown Pittsburgh, but I lived closer to the airport, which was only like a 10-minute drive to that venue, which was a lot nicer than driving and dealing with downtown. Okay. And, I was living out there. I started to find all the back roads to get there, so I wouldn't even have to deal with traffic. It was great. I could get out and be home in 10 minutes.
Yeah, that wasn't the case for us, because like I think towards, I would say probably around 2006, 2007, they changed it from going from Randall's Island in New York City area to Long Island. I'm like, I don't go to Long Island. I'm like, that's just too much of a fucking headache. So I think I ended up starting just going to Montage Mountain in Scranton, Pennsylvania. I used to go out there because it was only like an hour or so where I lived. So I would go to that so that was the last time I went to the Warped Tour, was going to the ones in Scranton. I mean, I think there was ones in New Jersey as well, but I think I just stuck with that one. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, for me, one of the reasons I stopped going, other than the lineup didn't interest me, is that those first few years I had a lot of friends from school that I would go to out there. Obviously, my best friend that I lived with, we would go all the time, but then he graduated and moved away, and then my other friends, when we graduated, moved away. So it's a totally different thing when you're going and spending 12 hours by yourself at one of these shows.
Yep.
And you're waiting 2 hours between bands you want to see, so you're just kind of like, all right, this is really not very fun.
Yeah, that was part of the thing that's one of the things I'll miss, but it's like one of those things where it's like it was a punk rock summer camp where you go with your friends and Warped Tour, we gotta go, and then so you would just go with your friends, and then towards the end I would just go by myself. What's that noise?
Oh,
truck?
A wonderful biker parade going down my window. And
so it was like you would go with your friends, hang out, and go all day, and then bitch about it and say how the sun, I'm so tired, and all that kind of stuff. But it was fun hanging out with friends, and then it kind of stopped for me, and then I just would go hang out in the photo pit the entire time.
Yeah, well, I was never covering it for Read back then, so I was just kind of going and hanging out and trying to catch at least a couple of bands that most of the time I'd get like a half dozen bands that I really wanted to see, but different from the old days when there was 30, 40 bands to see throughout the day and it was just nonstop music.
My first Warped Tour was actually in 1996. So I was like, I think they had it 1 year before that, 1995, and then in 1996 happened. That's when I started going to shows. My friend Robert, he's like, "Oh, I got tickets to Warped Tour. Ballstones are playing." We're like, "Oh, great!" This was in Vernon, New Jersey, at Action Park. And then if you ever seen the Johnny Knoxville movie Action Point, it was based on that Action. It was Action Park.
Oh, okay.
So it was like at a water amusement park kind of thing. So it was kind of interesting, and it was like it was just weird for me because I never been to anything like that before. It was just I went to a few shows by then, but I didn't go to like this all day fest before, and then I just had my wisdom teeth taken out. So both my brother and I had double sets, so we had 6 teeth, and we were like in the house for like a week, and like cheeks were blowing up. We had bruises, and then my mom didn't want us to go. and I was like, "Oh yeah, we'll be fine." And then they have like at Action Park, they have like those like cliffs that you jump into the water and things like that. So I was about to do that, and my mom's voices in my head, "Don't you do it? Don't jump." But it was fun. It was like really cool to see like the bands and stuff going on these rides as you're waiting online. Like I never experienced that. Like all of a sudden I turn around and see Fat Mike and NoFX and Angelo from Fishbone all like going on the water slides with me too. It was just like a surreal scene. I really don't even know what the hell I think we walked around Action Park more than we actually saw bands. I know Blink-182 played, and they were played on this little tiny like like stage that was like a flatbed stage. I saw Dance Hall Crashers. But the funny thing is we went to go see Ballstones and they weren't on that date. We're like, oh, fuck. It's like one of those things where it's like, oh, there was a close, they were playing too close to New York City, so they weren't allowed, I think, to play that date. Or something. So it was like one of those rules. So we're like, oh man, that was sucks. But we still got and then we got like a cassette tape, and it was a sampler and a Real Big Fish. So that's the first time I learned about Real Big Fish. Because I don't know if they played or not. Because I don't remember seeing them. But I think we saw like Down by Law and Dance Hall Crashers, Blink, Rocket from the Crypt. I wanted to see Fishbone, but we didn't end up staying because I think they were playing last. So I didn't see Fishbone until like a couple of years ago. That was like the first time I ever saw them because that was at one time I could have saw them back in 1996 and never did. But I don't know. I don't know why I never did.
Me, Fishbone, they eluded me for so long.
Yeah,
because they played Pittsburgh, and I didn't know about it because I was getting married. They were playing Pittsburgh when we were going on our honeymoon.
Oh,
I couldn't see them then, and then I had a ticket for them to play with Slightly Stupid. And they dropped off of that show, so they didn't play that show. Then they were playing Pittsburgh when I lived back where I am now, so I'm about hour and 45 minutes away from Pittsburgh.
Oh.
In a snowstorm in February, I drove about 20 minutes, and then I'm like, yeah, I'm not driving to Pittsburgh to see them. Oh well. I finally got to see them about 5 years ago.
It was an insane show when I saw them too, because I was right up front and I wasn't expecting it. It was like I got annihilated. I was like, I took my pictures and got the fuck out. And I'm like, it was hectic. I wasn't expecting that.
Well, when I finally seen them, they played at a place called, I think it was the Thunderbird Cafe outside of Pittsburgh.
Okay.
And the place was seriously about as big as your living room. And it was packed, and it was September, and it was the hottest day of September that I can ever remember. It was literally like 85 degrees outside and about 120 inside. They never finished they finished their encore with Party at Ground Zero.
Yeah.
But their guitarist did not even come out to play on it because he was suffering heat exhaustion. He's like, I am not going out there. So they played a guitarless encore of Party at Ground Zero.
I've been to plenty of shows like that. We went to I think it was like my dad, my brother, and I. We went to go see Mephistopheles like in February down at New York City at Wetlands, and it was like one of those rare days where it was like really, really hot. So it was like 90 something degrees in the club, and it was they called it the sweat glands for a reason. The club. Because they didn't like have fans or AC, but that's like one of those. It's like those shows you do remember because they're so fucking hot.
I know. It was like a beach party because everyone was topless. Like there were girls that were just in their bra and they were soaked, and guys were just like sweaty guys in front of you standing around, and it's just like you cannot move because you are packed in shoulder to shoulder until the show is over.
I remember that. I remember that brings up another thing. Another show of going to see Less Than Jake in Asbury Park at the Stone Pony, and they had like these it was like almost like a pyramid riser, I think, towards the back. So it was really hot, and then I was wearing jeans, and by the end of the night, it was all the heat was rising that I ended up like just cuffing my pants and making them into like jorts kind of thing because it was like so hot. I'm like, oh, I hate that when it's like it's that time where you don't know whether or not to wear jeans or shorts. Yeah.
You wear a hoodie and then it's 90 in the club. If you don't wear a hoodie, there's AC blowing on you all night.
So I was actually looking today of all the Warped Tour reviews that I have on the site. I think it started from 1997 or 1998 that we started writing reviews for it. And man, I was like, it's just we were so like angry in all of them. It just seemed like, especially like from 2000 to 2003, I think my brother wrote two of them because my brother would go, he went to like two of them. And then one year I just like said, no, I'm not going. Cause it was just like either was so sick of waiting in traffic and all this kind of stuff. But I think it was either like the 2000 or 2001 where I think the Warped Tour got postponed because it was like complete rain. So they like did the rare thing of just moving it to another day. So we're like, oh, well, I think we were on vacation. So we're like, oh, we'll go call and do a photo pass because back then it wasn't email. Really, you had to go call the publicist and those guys. I don't know who it was. I know they're still working this day as a PR company, but they were terrible for handling Warped Tour. And then they left us. They said, "Oh, we were good to go. We get all the way down to New York City and Randall's Island, and we weren't on the list at all. There was no photo pass, no ticket, so we had to go buy the tickets because there were still tickets available." And we were just, so the review was just like, these fucking assholes, and
nothing about the show. It was all about the publicist.
And then, well, yeah, and then it was just like all the reviews were just making fun of the bands. I mean, granted, like a lot of them were starting to get shitty by then with what you were talking about with the screamo and the emo, kind of phasing into that. And then there was like they had so much opportunity to just keep putting some ska bands on. I mean, besides Real Big Fish and Less Than Jake were the two bands that were always on it. But it was like they could have done so many other types of bands. Maybe the bands didn't want to be on it. But,
yeah, I mean, you'd figure that, I don't know what would have been involved with it, but you're mostly traveling. Well, I guess you would only travel, like you could choose, I guess, when you would play. A lot of bands would only play, like, here I'm playing a week of the Warped Tour, and then they'd be off of it. And then another band would be playing like a month, and then they're off of it. But I don't know what was involved with them actually, if you had to sign up and register at a certain time or what. But yeah, like you said, they could just, I'm sure they had local band stages too. But I know from friends that were actually trying to get on the local bill because they would have the multiple other stages. It was a nightmare to try and get through to get onto the local stage.
Yeah, kids had to like either sneak on the stage or do something like crazy to get Kevin Lyman's attention.
Yeah.
Like, or trying to like sell their demo tapes in the parking lot, and then they kind of got noticed that way, which sometimes worked, but I think by the end people were just like, it was frowned upon of trying to get noticed. I don't know. And then they used to do like the battle of the bands kind of thing. So the person that won a battle would go do like some local club would go play on one of the tiny stages, like right at like 11 o'clock when it opened the doors.
Yeah. Hey, you played Warped Tour and 5 people were there.
But what I loved about the early on of the Warped Tour was, it was cheap. It was to see all these bands on the same day. Granted, it was only a half hour, but then I just loved all the free stuff that you would get. Like just going from each merch table, you get free pins or stickers, or sometimes people give you T-shirts. So that's like for the first few years of that's what it was, and then it kind of quickly turned into this more corporate thing.
Yeah,
I was like bitching about that in my reviews too. It was like it's corporate and all these shitty bands wearing girl jeans.
Government. Well, did you ever have like the Yoo-Hoo booth and there was odd stuff that they would have, like free Yoo-Hoo. They would do. I remember Kraft had a table the one time, so you could go into a tent and get free Kraft macaroni and cheese. Which is really great in a summer day when you're eating mac and cheese and it's 120 out, and then you're drinking Yoo-Hoo to wash it down. Like
God.
But that's all you had because water was $12 a bottle, and
it was either that or Gatorade. It was either that or Snapple, because I was gonna bring that up. I was gonna bring that up later of all the photography stories that I've had. Like every year I would get either a Snapple bottle that was full or half full, hit my camera or hit me, and when I was in the photo pit, like every year. And like, luckily my camera didn't break. The mirror of one of my film camera like came off when I put it back. Thankfully it worked. But it was like, I never got that. That was always the thing at Warped Tour. People throwing fucking water bottles and Gatorade bottles and hitting at the bands, and it was
people being assholes. It's a punk rock show for the most part. What do you expect?
Yeah, and then there's a few times where I was like bitching about the security, like because sometimes, like towards the end, it would start getting to be so many. They would just allow anybody with a camera into Warped Tour, so the pits would get so crowded that I was starting to get yelled at. Like, you have to go number 4. I'm like, what are you talking about? And I guess we had to go through, instead of the first 3 songs, we had to go 4 through 6. So I guess on my bracelet I had 4 through 6, but I didn't know that. So a guy was like yelling at me. So there was lots of like security just being, the one thing I always hated was that there wasn't a separate line for the press. Like we always had to wait in that mile-ass long line of people getting in, and then you miss out on some of the first couple bands because you had to go wait in this long line. I don't know. And then I actually looked up today. I think your first review for the Warped Tour for ReadJunk, I think, was 2007. So I think that's probably when I gave you started. I'm like, you go ahead and take this
I don't
one.
even think so. I think it was just me, like, you aren't going to Warped Tour, so I'll just write up a review.
Oh, okay.
I think that's what it was.
Oh, was it?
Because I don't think that I'd gone on until like the last 3 or 4 years ago, so I didn't have enough clout yet.
Well, it wasn't like Comic-Con where we can both submit something. It's like kind of like, all right, just one of us has to recover one of the dates because I don't know if we would be able to get it, you know.
Yeah, I don't know, because it'd be 2 different shows. For the most part, the lineups were mostly different, so they would want more coverage. Why wouldn't you want more coverage?
But yeah, you never know with these press, with the publicity companies that were handling Warped Tour every year. I think it was like MSO. I think MSO was better than the other one that I will not name because they're still functioning. I don't know why, but
yeah, I never had any of the like issues with you. Obviously, with press and stuff, I didn't have the press, but
a few times
like lines and stuff, I would always have lines to just get into the parking lot. And then once I got into the parking lot, the Post Gazette Pavilion had like 72 different entrances that you could get into. So it was like you could go into the backstage, and it was kind of how the venue set up is that the main stages are down over the one side of the hill, and then there's like a little bit of a walk around, and they would have other stages and random stuff on the outer rim. And then on the back side, which was more like it wasn't kind of flat, it was a little bit of a grade to it, but then they would have maybe like 6 or 7 different stages there. So you just kind of like walk the loop, but then you could go to the main stage because it was all access. So you could go to the main stage and have a seat under the shade because it was a shaded big pavilion. And then that was always nice. But I do remember the one year that it must have rained like earlier that like overnight, and it was a mud pit.
Oh. And
if you would walk between the one hill and the main stage, you would just be bombarded with mud because people were just throwing mud at each other between the sidewalks.
I'm
it was like
surprisingly never had that happen. I never went to a mud like Woodstock kind of Warped Tour.
Yeah, that was the most chaotic, and the security guys were just standing there watching people throw mud at each other and just go around.
Yeah, like what are you gonna do? Right? Yeah.
There's 50 people throwing it at each other. I don't know.
But yeah, like as far as getting in, there was only just like one line for Randall's Island and for Montage Mountain and Scranton. I don't know why. It was just like, and sometimes I would sometimes be able to sneak and get past some people, and then you were able to like get backstage to go to the stages, which they did away with that at some point. I think around 2007, 2008, probably because they didn't want kids just roaming around backstage, which I can understand, but it's like it helped me out a lot getting back from stage to stage, because if you go through just walking it from stage to stage in the crowd, it takes you like 15 minutes just to get to the stage.
Yeah, and you're going to miss the band half of their set.
Especially in the way that certain cities line up the stages. Like in Randall's Island, they had like 2 stages next to each other, the 2 main stages, but then it wasn't too far away for the other stages, but farther enough that you can not hear the other stages when they're both playing at the same time. But then there was Scranton one. It was like, it felt like a mile away because they had the amphitheater there. So they would have the stages split for that, and then you had to go walk like a mile down the road to the other main stage. It was so just stupid the way they had some of the stuff set up. Now, was your Pittsburgh venue, was that like a parking lot, or was it like dirt, or was it like...
Well, the one that was downtown was pretty much just a parking lot. It was gravel and concrete, and it was kind of it was fenced off, so once you got in, it was like just this long rectangular area, probably like, I don't know if I recall, maybe the size of a football field. And I know that there were some random stages around in the back, but the main stages were up front by the door. But those first couple of years, they had some crazy stuff going on because they had some half pipes set up. They had a wrestling ring. There was like midget wrestling and all this random weird, like, it was just kind of like you go there and you're like, huh, this is really weird. I think I found some place I fit in.
Yeah, it was just cool. Like, oh, I'm going to go watch some guys doing, like, Rick Thorne and doing some bike stuff. And, it was really cool to see the skateboarders because I never see that stuff because we're not really I don't know. We don't really have that around here, or enough to the point to like watch like X Game kind of style stuff happening. So that was kind of cool. I never saw like they had like, or I think they're having at the 25th anniversary. They're having like the guy getting shot out of a cannon. Which I'm like, if I go to it, I'm gonna definitely try to see that because I've never seen that before.
They had that like 1 year, didn't they? Wasn't that a thing? I remember seeing it
Probably.
on
It sounds familiar.
brochure design or something.
It sounds familiar, but I never. Yeah, I was never because I stopped going after 2009. That was like my last one.
Yeah, when they moved to the outside of Pittsburgh, Burgettstown, they didn't seem. I don't know if it was just because of the change up of how they were running Warp, but they really didn't have a lot of that oddball stuff. Mm-hmm. So it was just kind of music and merch tables and food vendors and stuff like that.
Yeah, I wonder if it was just like certain BMXers and skaters were only available on certain dates, just like the bands were, I guess.
Yeah.
Like doing some stints, I guess. Now, what were some? Do you remember any like memorable band performances over the years from Warped Tour?
Yeah, definitely. Every time it seemed like Less Than Jake played, there was some craziness going on.
Oh yeah, yep.
They had a big ass circle pit that was probably like 30 yards wide. That it seriously started going up the hill because more people kept joining in on it. It started out in the middle of like a normal circle pit, and they're just like, just make it expansive. So it just grew so long, and it just felt like you were walking track because there were so many people, and it was so far expanded. Suicide Machines was another good one, and this was something they did like Braveheart style, one of those mosh pit things where they're just like everyone on one side, everyone on the other side, charge.
Yeah, that was the thing back in the early 2000s. Yeah, they would do that.
But definitely music-wise, probably getting to see the Long Beach Dub All-Stars because that was the closest I've seen to Sublime, and I was a big Sublime fan, okay. So that was pretty cool to see them. Seeing Save Ferris, that was the first time I ever seen them, and the first time I seen them since, probably 3 years ago. Yeah. They never, they broke up and were kind of split up and stuff. They were always one of my favorites, so they were really good. Green Day playing on the Warped Tour was always pretty cool because they just played a totally different set than, and that was early 2000s, so they were just kind of like Warning area. They didn't get to American Idiot where they were more arena rock sound, but
I was anti-Green Day back then, but I like them now. But yeah, back then I was just like,
Gwar actually a couple years ago was one of the headliners of Warped Tour, so that was pretty awesome. Like Gwar on the Warped Tour,
yeah,
and they set it up so, like I said, they were one of the last bands, and I think that it was good because everyone at Warped Tour showed up to see Gwar. The people were closing down their merch tents and going to watch Gwar. Like it was like a ghost town because Gwar was playing, and then that was it. Everyone went back to their tents, and the show was over.
Didn't they have some controversy? I think I don't know if they said something. Was Gwar?
There was something going on with another band. I don't remember
Dickies.
what.
I know that Dickies said something.
I don't know if it was them.
I mean, it's Gwar. I mean, they're bound to offend somebody.
Yeah. You have to know what you're going into when Gwar's there, so what do you expect? But
I guess there was a lot of controversy, with stuff going on in Warped Tour, so I'm pretty sure Kevin Lyman's kind of glad that it's over.
Yeah.
In a way.
Because there was some other band that had issues that was, I don't remember what band they were arguing with, but I'm sure they're backstage. There was all sorts of shit that was happening with those bands, and the logistics of it would have just been a nightmare trying to fit all of those people in a convoy and then setting up and sharing stage time.
Yeah, I liked watching the Warped Roadies show that was on Fuse because it kind of gave you a good insight of what was happening, even though some of it seemed staged a little bit.
Yeah.
It was like 2 seasons of that I had actually really enjoyed. But I remember Eminem, I guess, in Dropkick Murphys getting into a fight, and I don't know if I was at that one. But I was at one of the ones close to the date that I was at, and where there was I guess Eminem was being Eminem and Dropkick Murphys were being Dropkick Murphys.
Yeah,
and I guess,
I said, egos and lifestyles collide.
Well, did Eminem just leave that tour? I think after a while, because I think everyone just fucking hated him. I think.
I don't remember that, and that's one of the things I did like about Warped Tour is that there were, like, even though you had all the...
You know who it was? I think it was Kid Rock.
Maybe it was him. I don't remember Eminem.
It was one of those guys where I think they like left the tour because they just like had enough.
Well, I just seen it was Twisted. Twisted played a couple years ago, and I'm not a fan of that. Like, I like some of ICP stuff back in the day, and they're similar in vein, but they were there, and it was something I'm like, well, they're here. I might as well go check them out. I've never seen them before, and they weren't bad, but it's just like you would get some of those variety, like Helmet played one year. So that Helmet don't really fit that bill, but then you had
I think they played the first year, actually. I don't know if they played the first. Maybe they played the first year. I don't know. It seemed like early on, yeah.
It was probably like 2007 or 8 or something like that, if I recall. Because the Living End played right after them, so it was pretty cool. Just Living End and then, Helmet.
And I was looking at my reviews to it, and I'm like, this is before I liked NoFX. So I was like, so the first half of my reviews were just like, I can't stand NoFX. And I'm like, they're so fucking whiny and fat mics. And then towards the end, I'm like, they're great.
I flip-flopped on that. I used to really like them, and now they're not too exciting for me. I guess it's because they sobered up. Not as interesting.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't know about it. Interesting. It's definitely, they're still making headlines, but other bands that I've like loved seeing that I only saw at Warped Tour were like Rancid. Like I never saw them really in the clubs, and the Vandals, and at the time Bad Religion. It was great seeing Flog and Molly. Like those were the first times I saw Flog and Molly, and even like kind of like Dropkick Murphys too. Like that's where you can also see like when the popularity of some of these bands, which is like how big the crowds would be. And then like seeing Katy Perry there too that one year in 2008, I think 2007 when she was there. It's like this is
like Andrew WK. He was there a couple years ago. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, and he's playing this year too. Yeah.
Yeah, he's kind of like become a staple of Warped Tour, and you would never expect him to kind of join up with that.
Yeah, it just was like. And then he would have some rap groups. I remember the Fugees were on it one year. I was like, yeah, this is not. But then they had Jurassic 5, which I never knew. And I ended up like loving them, like, and I'm good buying their albums right at Warped Tour, like one of the few hip hops that I actually groups that I actually like at Warped Tour.
If I recall, I think it was them playing 2000. I remember. I think it was Jurassic 5 that I seen then, because I was just like, oh, that's kind of cool. There's a pretty good hip hop rap band playing.
Yeah, like the two DJs and
yeah.
They were actually singing and not like lip syncing and doing some other shit.
They had live musicians playing behind them.
Yeah, so I was like, that was like they're one of the rare like rap groups that I like that they had on. Then I at least I can from memory, I think the only reggae band they had was Morgan Heritage. So I'm like, I never really knew them, and then they played, and I'm like, wow, these guys are really good. I don't know why reggae bands were never a part of Warped Tour. I mean, they have ska and punk. You'd think they would have some more reggae bands. I guess
it wasn't as popular as it's kind of become now. There's been a renaissance in reggae, and the white boy reggae stuff too. Yeah. That's been opening up for that. People to get back into that stuff, like you said, Steel Pulse, Morgan Heritage.
Yeah.
The Heptones and all that. People are getting back into it.
Yeah, now the reggae rock stuff. Yeah, so it's like Dirty Heads. I mean, Dirty Heads are playing this year, but I guess if Warped Tour was happening another year, like, those bands would be playing on it more often, I think.
Yeah.
It just seems like the type of crowd. But then it's like, I don't know, some of the choices of the bands that they picked, I was like, why? It's that some of them were just so questionable why they were invited on, but I don't know. It was like a good mix of a lot of good bands and stuff. Sometimes there was just really bad bands playing.
I liked going too, because there were many bands that I discovered because of Warped Tour.
Yeah,
like Pepper, the Planet Smashers. Like I would just go and I would try and like hover towards any of the punk and the ska stuff. Like just. There sometimes were only a couple on tour, so you'd be like, all right, I'm going to go see. I know I'm going to go see Real Big Fish, but who the hell are the Planet Smashers? I'm going to go check them out.
The Planet and then Smashers they start playing they never played at my date. I don't know, maybe they played Pittsburgh and like other ones, but they never played.
Yeah, they played because me and my friend were watching. I think it was Five Iron Frenzy, and then Pepper played, and it was Five Iron Frenzy, and then Mustard Plug and Pepper played, and then we were going to go check out. I think Dropkick Murphys were playing on the backside. And we were heading over there, and then Planet Smashers come on, and I didn't know that they were playing already because I didn't look at the schedule, and they jump right into like Pee in the Elevator. I'm like, all right, I'm staying for this.
The song that they don't like to play. Yeah.
This is different. I'm going to check this out.
Yeah, like Flog Molly were like that's right when I first got into them, and then seeing them live for the first time at Warped Tour, I was like, wow, it like blew my mind seeing like that band, Bouncing Souls. I saw the specials on there when it was like Neville and Horace, I think, and Roddy. I think that was about the extent of the original members. During the
98 lineup, the Guilty Till
Guilty, yeah, that's the one I was trying to think of. Did you ever see Me First and the Gimme Gimmes at the Warped Tour?
Oh yeah, they were there all the time.
They were always a highlight because they had the bar on the stage, and then people were just buying drinks as they're playing. It's just something.
They did like a tiki bar. I remember the one year they were all in their Hawaiian t-shirts.
It was just something. I think that's when I started like softening up a little bit to Fat Mike a little bit, seeing him in that band. I was like, all right, it's sometimes his voice irritates me. Sometimes it's good, but
it was cool too because where else would you be able to go and see? And you think of the punk bands that would all play in a row, like NoFX, Bad Religion, Pennywise, Dropkick Murphys, like those elder statesmen of punk. Like you have all those bands playing the same day for like a $20 ticket. Like it was just crazy because they don't tour like that. Like the Vandals.
Yeah. Like the Vandals never come over here. So the only time I saw them was when they played Warped Tour. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think like Warren would climb up on the stacks and then like start mooning everybody or having like his shorts and like
he'd hike them up.
Yeah, hike them up into a wedgie. And like, so I have like, sadly, I have photos of that. It's like, things I don't want to document, but I'm like, I have to. But
I remember too. Another funny thing was the one year that Chris Rhodes, who plays in the Boston now, but Spring Hill Jack and all that. He was like a guest star in every ska band that played there because he just came out. He played with the Boston's. He came out and played with NoFX, and he was playing with Less Than Jake. I think he played with Real Big Fish just for the hell of it.
Yeah,
like he was just there, like, hey, let's get Chris Rhodes to come play on every ska set ever.
Well, that seems like what the Spring Hill Jack guys are still doing. Like, I think JR still, like, he'll play with the Boston's now because Chris plays with Boston's, and then it's like it always seems like certain those, like when they need them, it's like those hired guns they didn't need.
Yeah, just fillers.
Horns. And like Real Big Fish, horns do that for like Interrupters and other bands and stuff like that too.
It was cool seeing him with Suicide Machines too. He played horns with the Suicide Machines,
right?
But like him playing with NoFX, because you never, like when I've seen NoFX on the other occasions, other than El Jefe playing the horn, playing trumpet or whatever, like they never really had anyone playing that. So now they have two full guys kind of playing horns, and it was just different. And they started playing more ska back then.
Oh, you saw NoFX when they actually played songs? Because most of the times when I saw them at Warped Tour, they were just doing their banter for the entire half hour. I'm like, what?
No, they played. You figure what's the average NoFX song? Like a minute and a half. So
I think they maybe play like 4 songs and then would talk to us and make jokes.
I've seen them outside of Warped Tour. They played the whole entirety of the Decline EP.
Yeah, they've done that a few times. Yeah.
So it's just like, all right, wow, NoFX played 25 minutes of straight song. What the hell?
Was there any? Were you backstage at all? Did you have? No, you never went backstage.
No.
So yeah, I would
hang out me and my friends would kind of hang out with the band. Some of the bands like Tsunami Bomb, H&M, we'd hang out a little bit at their table, and they're probably like, "What are these kids doing? Get the hell away! Don't you have music to listen to?" But they were never really like that to us. There was a local band called the Space Pimps. We knew one of the guys in there, so he'd kind of like introduce us to people that he met through playing. But never really backstage or have any of the access like that, other than when I eventually got press passes 20 years later.
Yeah, well, sorry. Well, I mean, that was a nice luxury of having that, because it was just like getting from stage to stage, and then I would occasionally see some like celebrities, or I'm like, oh, there's Max Weinberg. I'm like, why is Max Weinberg here? But it was, I don't know. And then like John Norris from MTV or whatever his name is, I saw like Henry Rollins walking with barefoot and doing like working out, like the weights, and it was like kind of like stupid stuff like that. But mostly I went backstage just to go find a tree and go hide under like for the shade or something.
Yeah. They
One-
had some of those like the cool down tents and stuff where they'd set up the water that you just like go
Yeah,
run
that was
through
nice. The
water
mist
spray.
tents. Yeah, tents.
They did, I think, the Monster tent where they'd give you free Monster energy drink or something like that. So they started doing that later on towards the end,
Yeah.
but it's just like
When it
I
was
don't want
very, very
energy
sponsored.
drink. Yeah, it was whatever sponsor was getting their name attached to the trailers.
And it's like, yeah, it's like I get it. Like you have to have the tour running still, so it's like they needed to get a ton of sponsors. But at the time, it's like, fuck off. I don't know. It was like it kind of ruined it a little bit when it kept getting really, really corporate, and then. But I don't know.
That's what bands you started seeing. The bands that were popular on the radio. That's what was.
Yeah, and it
kind of
kind
hey,
of
this is going to be a draw, and that's not what Warped Tour was about. Warped Tour was about the underground indie music, and whether it was punk or ska or hip hop or metal.
He's trying to sell tickets, so they would always have like the hit of the year, like Katy Perry or like Gym Class Heroes got big, and then like Eminem, like. And the Fugees, like things like that, they would always have the one band. I was like, what is this band doing on this tour? And you always hear like, oh, Pennywise or something, or like Fletcher or somebody getting in a fight with somebody from one of the popular bands, or like. There was a good documentary about Warped Tour. I don't know if it was like on Fuse or MTV, where it was all like everyone telling stories. So I was like, that's where it's like. There was like some story with like a porta potty and like people getting tipping that, and I wish I could find that. I don't know.
I think you're right. If the roadie one wasn't on Fuse, I think it was the one that was on Fuse because it was just like the traveling.
Yeah, it was all about the roadies, but it was like this one was actually like they were interviewing all the bands, and I think it might have been on MTV when they, had music related things on it.
One of the things too that I like with Warped Tour is. Early years when I started going, it was still 5 years old, but the compilation CDs were another way that if they would release them early enough, and then you started hearing bands on there, you're like, oh, I want to check them out. This is pretty good. But then sometimes it'd be a 2-disc CD, and only like half of the bands were even on Warped Tour.
Yeah, it's like, why is this band on this comp and they're not playing at all? Oh, they're playing one day in California somewhere.
Yeah.
So I mean, what are some other things that you'll miss from the Warped Tour?
I miss being able to see, like I said, so many bands that I wouldn't have been able to see, but then some of the weird setups for the stages that you'd be walking around, and I seen the Groovy Goalies. They were playing beside a beer tent on the sidewalk, and I was standing like a foot away from their microphone, like, okay, I'm just staring them in the face, but here's the Groovy Goalies playing. This is awesome. And then Kepi was selling his art, like right there, like, oh, cool, you can get some Kepi art right beside the. They didn't have a stage. They were like busking or something, just set up, and that was pretty cool. I'll probably miss the times going with my friends that actually like to go and see the same type of music. Because there are quite a few times that I went with some friends, and they're just like, okay, well, what do you want to see? And then what do I want to see? This doesn't match up. Okay, see you later.
Yeah.
We shouldn't have probably even came together.
Yeah, it was good bonding with friends of bitching about traffic and whatever lineup it was, or the heat and the dirt. Now, that's one thing I won't forget is at Randall's Island there was the dirt, and we would always call it the Dust Bowl. And we would have brown boogers for days. it was like, and as soon as a mosh pit would start up, you would just see this big tornado of dust, and you wouldn't be able to see the stage if you were in the back. So you had to like go up front to go see it. But I'll miss like the summer camp feel to it. I always feel like it would be, Warped Tour was coming. You would go to it, and even if you didn't like the lineup, you would be like, all right, I'll go. It's like something to do.
It was something to look forward to every year, and I'll miss keeping track of what bands are coming because they would start announcing the dates, and you'd see that, okay, cool, Real Big Fish is playing the dates that are Pittsburgh, or oh shit, I wish Weezer was playing in Pittsburgh, but they're not. So you're kind of watching. You used to be watching where would it even be, like Punk News or something would. And ReadJunk, you'd start posting up when you get the press releases and just kind of anticipating who would be playing, and you'd have years where it was just excitement, and then you'd have other years where you're thinking, well, I don't know if I should go. There's a couple bands, but tickets were still like $20, $15, so I might as well go. I lived in Pittsburgh, so
I think
when I moved
30,
away,
weren't they $30?
What's that?
Maybe in New York City they were $30. I don't know. I feel like they were $30, which is still a decent price for that many bands for the day.
Yeah, I know that the first couple years, and I don't know if it might have been because if they did a student discount, I probably would have used that, because you'd get a student rush or something that they had around our area for college kids. So if you had a college ID, you'd get a discount. And then I don't remember when they started getting up to like $25, $30 is when I was just like, all right, well, they still charge for parking, which they did in the last couple of years, but they charge $15, $20 for parking, and then you're driving like an hour and a half, waiting in traffic, the gas money, and it's like it's not worth it for me for $100 to go see 5 bands that I wanted to see.
Yeah, that's when it started, like the negatives started overweighing the positives of going. So it's like that's why I stopped in 2009. Maybe I was just getting old. I'm like, all right, I don't want to do this anymore. I'd rather see the bands that I want to see in clubs that are play headlines or longer than just a half hour. But I'm like, at the same time, I'm gonna miss like seeing new bands that I never knew existed. Like the second year that I went, I think in 1997, it was Asbury Park, and I think Hepcat was supposed to play, but then they didn't. So they ended up having Mad Caddies open up everything. So that's like the first time we knew Mad Caddies, and like I like loved them, and then started like we were all dancing and like dancing in a little tiny circle pit in the back because no one else was dancing. And then we got their debut album. So that was like kind of like an eye opener of knowing some of these bands from the get go, thanks to Warped Tour.
Yeah, like you said too, some of the things that you're mingling with members of the band. I remember the Planet Smashers were playing, and they were just playing on one of the side stages. It wasn't even a side stage; it was just like, here's a stage on a hill, and you're sitting there, you're watching the Planet Smashers, you're enjoying it, and then you look over and it's like, oh, Dickie Barrett's checking out the Planet Smashers too. That's cool.
Yeah.
Real Big Fish the guys they'd always be seen out and about doing stuff, and hanging out at their booth, signing until everyone in line left, so it was pretty cool. Yeah,
and then towards the end, they kind of made it like a scheduled signing instead of just bands just hanging out at their tents. They kind of like some bands would just stay there the whole time and be actually selling the merch, and other times it would be like, oh, come meet Anti-Flag at like whatever time.
There'd be a big line of like 700 people, and it's like, I want to just go check out 5 other bands by the time I could get something signed by Anti-Flag.
And then I think I like that they did like the dad tents or like the parent tent. So I think my dad did that one year, like I think he stopped going like early 2000s, but like he would go to like to hang out at the dad tent, and I don't know exactly what was happening there because I was too busy doing other stuff. But they were probably
they're playing Law and Order, and they provided free newspapers.
Ooh, Matlock's on.
Oh, Matlock, hell yeah!
I remember the first time I registered to vote was at the punk voter booth. It was 2004. I'm like, finally had enough of. I was kind of like, all right, it probably doesn't mean anything, but I'm still going to register. So I was like, that's sort of like it's funny that the Warped Tour is a place that I've registered to vote for the first time.
You were rocking against Bush.
Yeah, and that didn't happen.
No.
Do you remember any like band performances that were just so bad, or like any moments where it's like, ooh, that was like, because I remember like seeing the U.S. Bombs and Dwayne Peters was so hammered or whatever, and he ended up falling off the stage. It was just so awkward to see.
Jeez, with that, I don't have to think on that. I don't really remember anything crazy like that though.
Yeah.
I kind of remember, I can't remember what band it was. I think it was Suicide Machines, and then there was some other like screamo band that was playing, and I remember that the Suicide Machines ran over the set a little bit, and then the other band that come up started talking shit on like, this fucking ska punk band or some shit like that. And like everyone that was there to see them that slid over from the Suicide Machines were just like, fuck you, and they all left. So there was like half the amount of people there to see that band because of it.
That was always, I think that happened about every Warped Tour, because there was always someone would go over or the bands are still playing. And I remember, I think it was like Jay from Bad Religion was like this, like strumming his guitar really loud and kept making it, or his bass kept getting like really loud. And they kept like increasing the volume, and then this like talking into the microphone, talking shit. That was like kind of because I would take pictures of the one stage, do the 3 songs, and then I would go over to the other stage and wait and listen and watch the band from that other stage, so I have a spot. I used to be able to do that until they started like yelling at me that I couldn't be in there like that early. So I would kind of like watch the other bands, like watch it, like talking shit with the other bands I was there. So that was kind of fun. Getting into, I guess, photography wise, I'm like, that kind of Warped Tour was kind of what made me into a concert photographer, because I used to I would have like, I think I started out with a point and shoot or my film camera there. And then it just kind of helped me become a good photographer, I guess, because you had to worry about crowd surfers, the bouncers. You had to worry about the bands going super fast, like AFI were like impossible to photograph. It's like, stand still for 2 seconds. Like back then I had like such a slow camera and lens that I was just like, if like Davey moved, I'm like, fuck.
It was all motion blur. That's all it was all the time.
But I don't know. I captured a lot of stuff. Well, I mentioned getting hit with Snapple bottles all the time on my camera, but one time there was a girl standing right next to me, and she had her head down. She was looking at her camera or something like that, and a bouncer was catching a crowd surfer, and he bumped into her, and her head went right into the stage. She was like huge gash on her head, bleeding. So I was like this close of getting like the same thing, and I'm like, man, it's like you kind of have to learn to have like eyes behind your head at the Warped Tour.
Yeah.
So,
I remember watching a lot of the bands. You would just be facing the other way and listening to the band, because it would just be a constant stream of crowd surfers, and that's what I had more issues with just assholes in the crowd. Like I remember this one dude that he just kept trying to push up to get to the front, and you couldn't move. There was like, we were probably 20 feet away from the stage, and you couldn't move, and he's just like pushing people, and he just like, I don't know, he just was an asshole and tried to jump up and climb up on people, and then people just dropped them on the ground. And
I did that. I did that in 1997 for the second Warped Tour. That was actually the only time I've ever crowd surfed, because I think I was like third person from the barricade, and Real Big Fish were on, but I'm like, I was getting claustrophobic. I'm like, all right, get me the fuck out of here. And so I ended up having everyone just kind of picking me up, and then going into the bouncer's arms, like feeling like thank you, Mr. Big Man.
I remember me and my friend, when we went, we were right beside each other, and we're both pretty tall, big guys.
Yeah.
And there was this one asshole crowd surfer, and he just kept coming through our way. It was like 6 times he kept coming through us. Well, he landed right behind us. And I looked at my friend, he looked at me, and like, you know what, let's fucking launch this fucker. So we ducked down, we got a good squat and counted the 3 and shot this guy up like 6 feet in the air above us. He was like a skinny kid, 5'4". He just went boom. Didn't see him the rest of the day. Like
a Captain America and Thor when they like do their shield and the hammer.
It was a fusion power, yes.
I'm trying to think. Did you ever experience any thunderstorms at Warped Tour?
Honestly, the only time, it only ever happened once, and I probably went to a dozen. Only ever happened once,
yeah, me too.
And it was perfect timing, because middle of the day, you're there in the crowd, running back and forth, and then it was before one of the bands come on, right when they were switching, and it was a downpour for about a minute, and it was just like, hey everybody, you're gonna get cooled off, and then it didn't get humid at all, and it was perfect. It was just like, here you go,
they
chill out a little bit. Yeah, we were all just like, oh, this feels so good. But it sprinkled, I think 2 or 3 years ago for maybe half an hour, and then the sun came out and there was no more rain. But knock on wood, never had the delays, never had to deal with any rain like that. And all the years that I went to them, I was pretty lucky.
Yeah, I was lucky too. Only one time, and I was at, I think it was the last time when it was Agro Lights were playing in the amphitheater in Scranton. And all of a sudden, like they postponed everything. Like they cut through Agrilite's set, and then so all the electricity was turned off. So then the drummers of the two stages were kind of just like doing like a drum off, and then all the kids just swarmed the amphitheater as it was like a torrential downpour for like a half hour. All the kids are doing mudslides down the hill. And then I saw stupid kids getting their water bottles and going up to the railing of the amphitheater of the roof. And we're we're drinking the water from that. I'm like,
God.
it's gotta be, it's like bird shit and all this kind of stuff on it.
I guess
and
if you're thirsty, whatever.
Yeah, it's like drinking like just mud water, I guess. But I was like, oh, idiots. Thankfully, that was only like the one time. And of course, it starts happening to me. I went to 2 outdoor shows today, this year, were the only shows I went to, and of course they're both like had rain in it.
Yeah.
I went to see Iration in Asbury Park. That had like a kind of like a misty rain kind of throughout the whole time, so it wasn't too bad. But then I saw Rancid, and they only played 3 songs because it was huge thunder and lightning, and they had to cancel the show. So I was like, if I go to Warped Tour next weekend down in Atlantic City, I'm like, if I see rain in the forecast, I'm just gonna fucking stay home because of like it's like 3 for 3. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I'm only gonna and that's, I guess we could talk about the Warped Tour 25. So they're doing 2 days in Atlantic City, and then I don't know why they're doing this, but they're not announcing the days or like until that Friday, like the lineup. So it's like I don't know what line. Because I was thinking of going both days and buying a hotel, but it's like $400 a night at least for like the cheapest hotel for Atlantic City. I'm like, I'm not paying that for like something that I'm doing for free and not getting. I mean, I got some money for Warped Tour for letting them use my photos on social media and stuff like that, but it's not enough to pay for a hotel.
Yeah.
And but so I'm kind of like up in the air whether or not I should even go, because it's like 2 hours and like 15 minutes with no traffic, and then I'm probably gonna come do that all day and then do that drive back home. I'm like, oh, I better be drinking some coffee or something, which I never drink. Maybe I'll drink a cappuccino maybe like once a month, but yeah. So I'm kind of like debating whether or not to go. I mean, it's a great lineup as far as like there's a lot of great bands playing: Real Big Fish, Less Than Jake, Bad Religion, Save Ferris, Aquabats, Scatolites, which I've never seen as Scatolites, even though it's like none of the original members
played on there before either. I don't believe they were ever on the tour before, were they?
Scatolites? No,
yeah.
No, I don't think so. Unless they played out in Cali, because Cali would always get the best lineups to me. And I'm sure if you ask people in California, they're probably saying like, oh, New York always got the best one. But yeah, so we'll see.
Pittsburgh just got the leftovers, pretty much.
Yeah, and I felt that way sometimes with New Jersey and New York and Pennsylvania. It's like, oh, this band's not playing, but they're playing in Long Island. But I'm like, I don't want to drive to Long Island. And
yeah, most of them would end up playing in Philly, and they'd just stay on the east side of the state and go play Jersey and Atlantic City and all that. But
yeah, but
I can't complain. I got to see, for the most part, most of the bands that, who's who of punk and ska from that era in the Warped Tour.
Yeah, and that's why I feel like I go one more time and go cover at least one day. But then I was like reading all the reviews today. I'm like, oh man, do I really want to go put myself through this again of like waiting online for the photo passes? Oh, and then then you got to wait an hour for the photo passes when they don't show up, and we got to print out the photo pass. So it's like, so I'm like, do I really
they have their shit together by now?
I hope. I mean,
I think the closest to me that tour is coming is either Cleveland or Atlantic City, and they're maybe they do Philly, but that's still
it's just Atlantic City, and then California, and that's it. That's how they're just doing. So I wonder if they're going to be doing this every year, or they're just doing this for the 25th anniversary.
Yeah, because I thought that they were pretty much done with it as a traveling festival, and they might just do local or specific areas like the big hot spots, New York City, or
Yeah, but I don't know why Atlantic City. It's like 2.5 hours away from New York City, so I don't know why. I mean, it's probably where they can get to do it right on the beach or something. But
well, again, you said it might have something to do with like the exclusivity clause of a lot of stuff. Like,
a
lot of bands are playing New York City now on their own, and
getting permits to do that, and yeah. So I don't know. We'll see. Did we go over things that we won't miss about Warped Tour?
Pretty much the whole time.
The whole time, half-hour sets.
We're not going to miss the
bands I don't want to see again.
Shitty bands is the main thing. I won't miss that.
It's like, this one band, I don't. There's only one band I want to see, and they're playing last. It's like, no, they're gonna stay all day.
And you don't know the schedule for most of the band. Like, you don't know the schedule till you get there. So
yeah,
already show up early, and then it's like, here's a band at noon. Here's one at 2. Here's one at 4. Here's one at 9. It's like, oh geez, do I really want to stay 5 hours and do nothing? Nope, hitting the road.
Yeah, I mean, looking back at it, though, it's like, as much as all the bitching that I've done in all my reviews and talking about it, it's still something that I always used to look forward to, and for the first 10, 15 years of it.
Yeah,
and then,
easily.
And then I kind of just, afterwards. But it was always something like, oh, the Warped Tour's this year. And then once Warped Tour happened, it's like, oh, summer's almost over, kind of feeling, and then it's back to school or college or whatever.
Yeah.
But it was a great festival that, that brought your friends out to shows that, like, maybe they only went to one show a year, but it was Warped Tour, so they would go to that. So it was kind of cool. And then seeing all the bands you never saw, and so it was kind of like a nice thing for that. But some things I just won't miss.
Yeah, I definitely won't miss trying to park in the stupid setup that they have for their parking lot there now. Like, drive halfway across the venue into the 2-lane path into the back parking lot in the woods, and you're waiting in traffic for an hour just to get in.
Yeah.
After you get in,
or
off
get
of the
out
if you the road,
or get out if you have to leave at all at the same time. I would always like see the first couple songs for the headliner, if the last person that was playing and didn't leave, because by that point you're just sitting in the sun for like 8 hours, and it's like, no,
yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah, you have a little bit of heat stroke and stuff like that.
I would always get the best sleep though after a Warped Tour. It was just like, I would go home as soon as I can get home, like 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, and I think I would wake up like 10 o'clock in the morning the next day. Like, wait, what day is it? But all right, Warped Tour aside, how's your summer starting to go? Everything going good?
Yeah, busy. Got some shows coming up. I'll be going to do a review of a band coming up this weekend for the site, Jimmy's Chicken Shack.
Oh yeah, those guys, yeah. They're
playing locally, so got that lined up. And then Slightly Stupid coming up next week. Boston's in August. That's about all I have lined up for now.
Oh yeah, so you're not going to go see Radix Fest?
No, I had a bunch of people that were supposed to be going with me for that, splitting the cost on a bunch of stuff, and no one confirmed, and everyone backed out then. And
yeah, I'm in promoting hell of it now, because now it's like we got to do the last month to push it, to start selling some tickets and stuff like that. So I'm trying to get on with that. And so July 19th, Gramercy Theater, go see Radix Fest, Pilfers, Mephistopheles, Spring Hill Jack, Hope City, Sergeant Scagnetti, and Root Boy George. I'm forgetting somebody. I don't know.
I think that's it. I think you're right.
And then you're going to be covering Comic-Con, since I'm most likely not going to, unless I do the one Sunday.
Yeah, I'll be there most likely Thursday and Friday from the looks of it again. So same old ordeal.
Yeah, I'm kind of bummed not going to it, because it was something I finally started going to it. Now it's like, I gotta go to Comic-Con. It's like I'm curious to see what kind of panels and stuff they would have though. But
yeah, it was last year. It was kind of weird because they didn't start promoting it seemed till later, and didn't start getting a lot of the stuff set up till about a month before the show. With a lot of because I cover a lot of the DC Warner Brothers stuff, and kind of wondering about that this year, because they've been slacking on providing things that they promised that they're going to send out. So I haven't been getting stuff from them too much.
Well, they're not going to be at San Diego, so I'm wondering if they're going to have a presence in New York now too. But maybe that's because people kept leaking the footage from all their panels at Hall H.
Yeah.
And then that's why they're like, we don't feel like it. And I don't know. Do they even have? Well, they have the Batman, I guess, is coming out, or going to be starting.
Batman Hush. And I'm sure there'll be something. Usually the DC animated stuff's like once every 6 months. So they just did the Turtles Batman one, and then I think
right.
August or September, I can't remember off the top of my head, is the Batman Hush animated movie.
What's your take on Robert Pattinson as the Batman?
What's that?
What's your take on Robert Pattinson being the Batman?
Hey, people thought probably, if I recall, Michael Keaton wasn't going to be a good
or
Batman.
Heath Ledger as the Joker, yeah. So I'm like, give it a chance.
I mean, you got to give him a chance.
Yeah.
I won't know it until I see it. Like, I despise Ben Affleck, but I think that he was one of the best Batman that I've seen on film.
Yeah, I don't know.
Christian
Bale is my favorite, I think. I mean, you don't really care. You didn't care for those movies, right?
I didn't like the whole ground Batman in reality stuff. I know he is, but he isn't. He's a comic book character, and
yeah.
you know,
I still like it.
I didn't like Christian Bale at all with his like duck voice for Batman.
Where is she?
But they did film some of what was the third one? Dark Knight Rises
in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I was there at Heinz Field. They were filming the scenes with Bane and a couple of Steelers football players there. Heinz Ward was there, so that was an all-day ordeal, but it was pretty cool to be part of it.
Oh, right, yeah, and I was down in Wall Street area when they were filming stuff like that because I think I was taking pictures of like Occupy Wall Street, and then I'm like walking down there by the Fed. I'm like seeing Gotham PD cop cars, and then I'm seeing a huge fucking brawl. I'm like, what is going on? I'm like, okay, I see cameras crews there.
Yeah.
I'm like, whoa, something's happened at the Fed.
Well, you had to actually sign up through this site, and I forget, my friend linked me to it for, getting to be a part of this. So you signed up at this site, and then they contacted you if you were part of the, the audience to come for the filming. And then they would meet you downtown. I think it was over where the old Pittsburgh Penguins arena was at the Civic Center. They'd meet you there, and then they bus you from there. It wasn't too far, but across town over to the Steelers Stadium. And it was just like nonstop buses. And I stayed, I kind of had some friends that lived on the other side of Pittsburgh, and I knew a different way to get into Pittsburgh from the back end. So we stayed outside of Pittsburgh on the opposite side of the tunnels, and then drove in, and I had friends that came from my area driving in to the west to Pittsburgh, and they got stuck in traffic for so long. We were seriously over there for probably 3 hours before their buses arrived.
Ooh.
But it was kind of, they had a little bit of rain, and they were shuffling you around to different parts of the stadium so that they could superimpose the rest of the people in the audience, because they only had the stadium like an eighth of the way full. And then they would set you up with all these different scenarios, and they would have, we were close to the aisle the one time, and they had some of Bane's cronies come down the aisle, point guns at you and stuff, and they told you, now you just act like you're part of this terrorist act, and you're scared of these guys, and like, don't do something ridiculous. But
were they making you guys chant something?
Yeah, they were. I forget, it was whatever the Gotham team was, the Gotham City Knights, I think they were chanting that.
Oh, okay. And it wasn't part of the song that was in Hans Zimmer's score, like like whatever that one song is. I don't know whether or not they used you guys for that, like that or not.
I don't remember that.
Maybe Hans Zimmer just used something else, because it seemed like a huge chorus when they were doing that. Yeah. They
did at the very end. It was one of the last things they filmed, where they set up a whole big pyrotechnics display underneath the film. Or underneath the field, and they had this fake pieces of prop land that would collapse and stuff. So they had Heinz Ward from the Steelers, and he would do kickoff returns, and he did probably like 20 of them, and they were just getting different takes of it. And then Tom Hardy came out to the middle of the field, and he was talking to the crowd for a little bit before he started doing his part, where he was saying about, this is my city now, I'm taking over and all that. Yeah, that's kind of, before he edited him out, you could actually hear him better on the PA system.
Man, seeing that movie for the first time when he did that voice, man, really took me out of the movie. I'm like, this is how it is? I'm like,
It's like, why? What the hell? Is he supposed to be Darth Vader or what?
I love the first two movies. That one was like questionable stuff and some of it, but all right. I think we had a nice little quick little tangent here of movie stuff, but
Yeah, that's what I got going on my summer. Some concerts coming up and some random stuff.
yeah, not too many concerts besides Radic Fest, and then I might try to go see Alice Cooper in August, but probably won't. I'm just like I've never seen him. He's a bucket list, person to see. So
Yeah.
only if I can get a pass. If not, I can't go.
Oh, I totally forgot one that coming up here. Real Big Fish and Aquabats too, July 2nd. That's going to be one.
Oh yeah, you're lucky. And then wasn't there? Oh, the Rancid one's coming. Did you mention that one?
Yeah, they just announced that one.
Yeah.
I have so much stuff going on around that same time. I have to look into it because I'm going to be covering that Pittsburgh Steel City Ska Fest.
Oh right.
They're doing Mephistopheles are playing there.
Yeah, and then Matt from Plan Smasher said they might be trying to get onto that. I don't know if they are or not, but
Be awesome. I didn't hear that.
Well, if you listen to the podcast, you would know. That's what he mentioned.
Boy, I'm friends with the people that run it on Facebook, but I haven't heard anything from them mention it.
He's
Usually
like, well, he was trying to get onto it, but he didn't know if it was too late. It was.
I don't know. I think if they wanted onto it, I think it would pretty much be like, yeah, come and play. Hell yeah.
I know. I kept grilling him like, come play New York finally, and I guess it was. Yeah, it's like, oh, we'll be getting there soon. I'm like, all right. It's been about 12, 15 years. Something. I don't know.
Oh yeah, it's been a while for me. I think maybe 10 years. They played with Mustard Plug back then. That was the last time I seen them.
Yeah.
It was around the same time they played the Warped Tour the second time around this area.
Was it Ska's Dead or something?
Oh yeah, maybe it was.
Yeah, I think it was Ska's
Played
Dead.
with, yeah, because I think it was them, Mustard Plug, maybe the Toasters.
Like Catch 22 maybe or something.
Yeah. Yeah, that was in an old club in Pittsburgh. I think they played. It was called the Rosebud. It's no longer there. The whole strip of clubs that were pretty cool got turned into apartment complexes recently. So
that sounds like New York City.
Yep.
There's only maybe like 3 or 4 clubs in Manhattan. All the other clubs are in Brooklyn, which I can't go to now because it's too far away.
You need to take a 2-day excursion.
Yeah, it's like I guess I can start driving to shows again. I was so used to just taking a train, but okay. I think this was a fun little chat talking about Warped Tour and other stuff, and so you have a great summer. If I don't talk to you again on podcast, I'm sure we'll have other things to talk about at some point. Maybe we can do a recap of New York Comic Con in the fall if I decide to go on Sunday. If not, I can just ask you questions about it.
we could also do one leading up to it if you wanted to talk about the past years that we've been going and
that's
what we got set up for coverage.
Yeah, that's a good idea. It's a shame that you don't have quality like audio stuff that we can play some of the interview stuff on the podcast.
Yeah,
but
that's not my thing, I guess.
Yeah.
Just here's my phone.
Yeah, sometimes that's sufficient if you're just doing interviews, but for podcasts you need quality mic, I guess. Yeah. But all right, man, this is fun. Let's do it again sometime.
All right, thanks for having me on the show and bringing up the Warped Tour goods and bads.
Yeah, lots of bads, but
lots of bad.
There's some good stuff.
Lots of good music, lots of bad other shit.
Yeah.
Including music.
Fuck the corporate Americans.
Corporate Tour 2008. Fuck it.
Man, I'm going to pay $10 for a water bottle. All right, dude.
All right, Brian. Catch you later.
Yep, later. Bye-bye.